Hello everybody. So in the coming episodes of this series, we're going to be doing various things with guitar pickups. And before going there, I thought it best that we review first just what a guitar pickup is, how it works, how the different kinds of pickups work. And then that'll pave the way for us to start, doing really neat things with pickups that we suspect Eddie Van Halen used in his guitars, especially the Frankenstrat, going forward from about 1978-79 through to 1981. So let's get started. When an electrical current travels through a wire, it creates a magnetic field that's perpendicular to the wire, so it moves around the wire. When the current moving through the wire changes, moves faster, changes direction, what have you, that affects what happens to the magnetic field too. It affects the magnetic field. Now, in the modern world, we're surrounded by all kinds of electronics devices, full of wire, full of circuitry, each of which gives off these magnetic fields. So there's magnetic fields all over the place, coming in on all angles, up, down, sideways, and what have you, all perpendicular to the various conductors that are traveling or that are making electricity travel through them. By the way, just as an aside, I'm dealing with the sort of grade 12 level of electricity here. I'm not going to get into the modern physics understanding of how electricity or how power is moved from one place to another. I'm just going to use the standard fire hose analysis for all of this. So don't take me as being literal on all of this. I understand that people who really understand physics and engineering wouldn't say that electrons move through a copper conduit much as water moves through a hose. It's not like that. But it doesn't hurt us to think of it that way. In fact, it helps us to simplify. So that's what I'm doing here. Now, just as changes in the current, what's happening in the conductor, affect what's happening in the magnetic field. So a change in the conductor, the current moving through the conductor, changes the shape and etc. of the magnetic field. It's a sort of two-sided sword. So if there's a change in the magnetic field, that changes what's happening to the current in the conductor. So if we have a conductor, and it's in the presence of a changing magnetic field, that's going to cause current to run through the conductor. If there's nothing that is pushing current through the conductor, and if there's no magnetic field changing, it has to change. If there's no change in the magnetic field around that conductor, there won't be any current in that conductor. It just sits still. It's the change of the magnetic field that causes the current to move within the conductor. So if we have a coil of wire, like in a guitar pickup, there's all these coils or turns of wire around what we call a bobbin, a plastic bobbin, or sometimes metal rods that together with top and bottom flatwork constitute a bobbin. When we have winds of copper, thousands of winds of copper formed into a coil, if there is a change in a nearby magnetic field perpendicular to that wire coil, it will cause that coil to have a current move within it. Now, if there's multiple magnetic fields all impinging upon the same conductor, they're all going to sum and subtract and add to determine overall what will be the effect on the current moving within that copper conductor, or as we might say, coil for the guitar pickup situation. So if you have TV and a radio and a light bulb and etc., and all of this circuitry is giving off magnetic fields that are perpendicular to the conductor of your guitar pickup, well, your guitar pickup is being caused to have a current within it that's determined largely by all of those magnetic fields combined together, whatever that mess of spaghetti jungle magnetic change is doing to the coil. So let's imagine a situation where the only thing that is in existence, the only magnet that exists, is a magnet in your guitar pickup. So there's no electronics in the surrounding area. The coil is sitting still, nobody's plucking a string. And all of a sudden you decide, let's pluck a string that is located within the magnetic field that we've created with a magnet inside our pickup. There's a magnetic field around the pickup, and now we're going to wiggle a string within that magnetic field, a metal string. What does that do? Well, it causes deformation or change in the magnetic field, and that's going to cause a change in the current within the coil of the pickup. Now, of course, that current moves down your guitar cord into your amplifier. The amplifier magnifies that tiny little signal that's created by the small change in current in your pickup coil, amplifies it, sends the amplified wave to a a big speaker in your speaker cabinet in your room, makes the paper move like this in the speaker, which pushes all kinds of air against your ear, which then vibrates the insides of your ears and causes you to perceive what you call sound, the sound of your guitar. So what happens if you don't have a magnet in your pickup? Well, now you've got a coil of wire, you've got some strings, you know, half an inch over the coil, and you're strumming away on these metal strings, but no magnetic field exists. So no magnetic field exists to change. So there's no changing magnetic field to cause a current to develop within the coil. If the only magnetic field possible in the room is a magnetic field that you would introduce to the pickup, but you haven't introduced a magnet to the pickup, that pickup isn't picking up anything at all. If you take that pickup that has no magnet in it of any kind, and you then put it into an atmosphere where there are electromagnetic devices like the electronics and the TV and the lights and etc., and some of those electronics are giving off changes in magnetic field, and those magnetic fields are within the reach of the coil, well, then they're going to combine and cause your guitar coil to create a current, which then will be sent off to your amplifier and come back to your ear. But it won't sound like a guitar or like a string or music. It'll sound like a big hum, what they call 60-cycle hum, or the electromagnetic interference. You can especially hear this with single coil pickups like you would see on a Stratocaster or a Telecaster. Not so much on a humbucker, which buck that hum, and in a way we'll talk about in a minute. So a coil picks up changes in the surrounding magnetic field, whether that magnetic field is created by a part of your pickup or whether it's simply the other electromechanical stuff in the surrounding area. Now we can demonstrate this by making what some people call a dummy coil. A dummy coil is a coil of copper wire, like that found in a guitar pickup, but that doesn't have any magnetic field of its own. It's just a wind of copper wire. So let's make a dummy coil that looks like a guitar pickup, but that doesn't have any magnets in it. And let's see if in this very noisy room that I have, I can guarantee you there's all kinds of electromagnetic interference in this room. I've experienced it before. Let's see if we can pick up the hum, even though we cannot pick up any sound from the guitar because there's no strings nearby, there's no magnet in the dummy coil. Let's just see what we hear. Turns, and now I preset that at 4890. What I want is 4900, but I'm going to manually turn about 10 turns on with my hand first. And so when this thing is operating, it will count down until it gets to 0 winds, and then I'll be done. Now I've purchased a number of bobbins, so I'm going to use a humbucker for this demonstration. This is the plate to which the bobbins will be connected. And we've got a choice. I've actually got white ones somewhere, but I think I'm going to go with traditional black and cream, just for fun. So we need, one is a screw size. So these bobbins have one side that are for the screws to go in, and you'll see right there, screw side written on PAF, screw side black. And then there's a slug side, and there we have that. So I'm going to match those two together. So I've got the top side out, and I'm going to screw this into there. Okay, so you'll see I've just taken some blue painter's tape, the narrower stuff, and laid it in the channel there and around the side. And I'll just cut it off here with an X-Acto, and I'll do the same on the other side of the channel. All right, so there we've got it. All right, and that's the side, the side that's going to go down against the front of the pickup. So we're going to rest that here, and then we're going to take these two screws here, and we're going to tighten them on. Okay, so that bobbin's on there. The blue tape, the painter's tape, is protecting the plastic at the top from the metal channel. So there's various kinds of coatings that are placed on pickup wire, copper wire, and the old traditional coating that was used in the Gibson PAFs was plain enamel. Now, the formulation probably differed back then. I'm told that back in those days, the composition of the stuff was somewhat carcinogenic. I don't believe this is. And then there are different gauges of wire. Typical gauges for guitar are 42, 43, and 44 gauge. In that system of gauging, the higher the number, the narrower the wire. So 42 is actually a thicker, if you want to say, or greater diameter wire than 43. And so you can get more winds of 43 gauge wire onto a bobbin than you can of 42. However, in the original PAFs, it was the 42, the thicker gauge wire, that they used. So I'm going to use the 42. I've got some black paper tape that's used to wrap the coil after the pickup's been wound, to protect the wires once they're on the bobbin. And this is 1/4 inch stuff. Fits right in there. And there we have our wire. It's kind of a dark brown. That's just the coloring of the plain enamel on the wire. And the start is right there. And it feels like basically a hair, human hair, fine human hair. You can see that, it's quite fine. And we'll put this on the spool on the ground between my feet. And we'll run this up to the winder. The convention is to call this first part, this first end of the wire, the start, for obvious reasons. So this is what we've created. I've got to manage to get those very fine wires soldered to some leads, which they sometimes call pigtails. So that's next. I've got some 600 grit sandpaper here. When you're sanding this wire, you do not want to pinch. So we've got a crevice here. You do not want to pinch the wire in that crevice with your fingers. It'll just snap right off. You want the paper to be doing the work for you. So you want to get it between the paper, but not between your fingers. And then just give it 3 or 4 strokes and hopefully you're fine. So now what we can do is we can test to see whether we've got conductivity in the coil. And there we go. Good. 3.29. We're live. All right. Now that I've got some preliminary tape on there, I'm just going to put another loop around the whole thing. I'll check the conductivity again, make sure I haven't broken the wire by doing this. All right, so these are the slugs and these are the screws that will be pressed into the, well, these will be screwed in, these will be pressed in to the bobbins. I've got the cream bobbin that I've wound. I didn't show that on the camera, but I wound a cream bobbin, that's the slug side, and then I've wound the black bobbin, which you've seen, which is the screw side. You might think that these two things are magnetic. These are not magnets. They are not magnetized. They are not what creates a magnetic field within the pickup. There's actually a bar magnet that sits below the 2 coils, and we'll see that later. But for now, I just want to give a basic demonstration of the fact that these are not magnetized. That's important because when we start talking about humbucking and demonstrating humbucking, I don't want you to think that a magnetic field has been created by the slugs or by the screws. So let's just do the old refrigerator test. Here's a Frigidaire. You can see I can't, it doesn't stick. There's the slug. It's obviously not magnetic. It's just, I can't make it stay if I wanted to. All right, so I've made this second coil for the humbucker. This is the slug side coil. We've got our slugs that they're just pressed in. So to do this job, pressing in the slugs, well, not only in this kind of pickup, but also in like Fender style pickups, I bought myself a arbor press, size number 0, made by Vivor. And it comes with a number of attachments, one of which is the flat attachment. There are other ones, you know, you might want to put something in with a bit of a round or pointy tip. But for our purposes, I just want to go flat. And so I'm going to install the flat bit here, and that'll press our slugs in nice and flatly. I'm going to try and wiggle them straight before we press, but other than that, that's the idea. I'll place the bobbin there. I've got the bit in. There's no gunk on the end of it. I don't think there is. I think that I've got that slug more or less vertical. Just going to gently and slowly push it in. Even though this is the smallest arbor press, it's pretty pretty big. I think we've got our slug side coil done. And eventually it will be put into a base, a humbucker base. So now we can put the arbor press away because the other coil is going to have screws instead of slugs. All right, so the first coil I wound is the screw side, and I've got a screwdriver here. It's ratchet style, so it'll allow me to not have to twist my wrist around over and over again. We can keep everything in place. Once it's in a bit, all right. So you can see the bottoms of the screws coming in. All right, so these are the pieces of a humbucker. There's some wire that would attach to these leads. This is the plate, the base plate, and the bobbins are screwed onto the plate. This is a keeper bar that goes onto the screws on the back of this, the screw side bobbin. This is the magnet, which at present is not magnetized. It's just a bar of metal. I'll magnetize that later and I'll show you how that's done. So the magnet is going to lay this way when it's all assembled. That's the idea. You know, that magnet will create a magnetic field, but we're not going to put that magnet in right now. So we're going to have just a dummy coil. The magnet is what allows this whole device to create a magnetic field so that the strings can wiggle within it and create a current as a result in these coils. So all we're going to do at this point is create a dummy coil, no magnet. This means that if we install it in a guitar, these strings, if we strum them, will not create any signal. Won't be able to hear it through an amplifier. This is 4-conductor wire, meaning it contains probably the same colors as these, but I'll open it up and we'll have a look. All right, so we've got the ground, which is just uncoated wire, and that'll run ultimately through whatever circuit to the ground portion of the jack, the guitar jack. And then we can see that we've got 4 wires inside. Okay, so there we have 4 conductors plus the ground, and we're going to be ultimately connecting the pickups to the 4-conductor wire. So this is actually the top of the base plate, and normally you would splay those apart after you stick it through the hole, but this is the hole for the 4-conductor wire, or 2-conductor, depending what you're using, but I'm using a 4-conductor here. That'll come through there, and the ground will be soldered to the base plate. The back of the screw coil has what's called a keeper bar. That fits on as so. There we go. Crush, crumple, cram. Okay. And once this ground wire is soldered to the base plate, then the south side pickup will go in here. All right, so this base plate, just a quick note, it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 holes that the screws for the screw bobbin, the bottoms of those screws are going to go through those holes. However, at least this base plate, the one I bought from Solo, the holes were just a bit too small for the screws to fit in. And these screws are not designed to create a hole or to widen a hole. They're just designed to fit in an existing one. So what I did was I took an awl. That's it's got 4 sides, but it's got it's not a screwdriver. It's just like a punch with 4 sides on it. And I stuck it through each hole, ground it round until I just widen it ever so slightly. And now I can take the standard size screw and it fits. Okay. So we've got our wire in the right spot. Gonna heat the wire on the base plate. There we go. Good. All right, we can take the little loose wire off of this and give us back our pigtails. And we can attach the bobbins. Without further ado, let's get this this bobbin on here. Now we can see that the stopper bar fits to the side of the wire, not a problem. All right, now we'll just do the same for all of the other pull pieces. I guess I'll start at the other end. Now I think it's traditionally the case that the screw side was screwed into the metal of the base plate. In other words, it was actually attached to the metal of the base plate, not just sliding through loose holes. But these 4 holes are for these little screws, and these are what really hold the bobbin to the other side of the base plate. And that's why you don't really need screws on the slug coil, because it's not these screws that's holding the coil on. It's these little screws that are holding it on. There we go. Incidentally, the slugs, because they go all the way through the top, they're flying flat on the top. The amount of space on the bottom of the slugs is about the same as the amount on the spacer bar there that has the screw side. So that's why the two bottoms line up. Anyway, let's get our screws in there. That's two. And then we can put the complementary only in the sense that these screws are already holding the screw side pickup or bobbin in, but I'm going to do it properly. We're going to put all 4 screws in. And there we go. Now let's just make sure we've got conductivity still. This is the slug side. We'll do the slug side coil first. .37. That's good. .38. All right, we've still got conductivity. I haven't broken any of the wires, so we're good. So essentially we've got our completed humbucker. These leads can be connected to these. And then on the other end, we can connect the wires however we wish. In other words, we can connect just the one coil, we can connect both coils in series, we can connect them in a humbucking fashion, we can connect them in a non-humbucking fashion. So let's do that now. We'll connect the leads from inside this wire to the leads from the pickup or from the coils, and then we'll use this end to do our testing on hum cancellation. All right, so all we're going to do is take the wires that are inside the large lead and match them up. So the green will go to the green, the red to the red, and so on. So we're going to solder these together once we twist them. These little ones here I'm going to have to be very careful with when I strip them. Good. All right, and I'm going to use my helping hands here again. Twisting the two greens together. This way we don't bite through the wire. Just put the rubber socks on there. That's one. Heat shrink tubing. Comes in a variety of sizes. And then we'll just touch each of these with the soldering iron to shrink them up. So now we'll just gently, if we can do it gently, tuck these in. All right. So now on this end of the cable, we'll be able to do our experiments. Now what we're going to do to start, though, is I'm going to put this in a guitar, and I'll only connect the first coil. So the second coil, the slug coil, is this white and red. And we're just going to tape that off. It won't be connected to anything. So the coil will be sitting in the base plate, but it won't be doing anything at all. All right, so it'll just be this coil that we're going to be, just the screw coil that we're going to be using, and we'll see first what kind of electromagnetic radiation can be picked up with this screw coil. After that, we'll see if we can buck the hum by combining the finish ends of the two coils and using start end of our slug coil as the hot. And then, if we've bucked hum, we can slide a magnet in here and demonstrate that even though, you know, we're canceling electromagnetic radiation from other sources, we're not canceling the magnetic radiation from the magnet itself, and we're not canceling the sound of the guitar. The strings will move that magnetic field, which will cause current to travel through the cable and into the amplifier ultimately. All right, so this is an Epiphone Carina Explorer. I think it's 2016. And it's going to be our research test rodent. What I'm going to do is take this bridge pickup here. I've never seen what it is. I've never opened the back. I've never taken it out. But what we're going to do is first we're going to record the guitar stock the way it is. Everything on 10. Straight into the computer. No speakers, no amplifiers or anything like that. Just so we get a baseline. I'm using the Focusrite, the 2 inputs. And of course what we're going to be doing is taking the pickup I've just made, or at this point it's just a dummy coil, has no magnet in it, and putting it into this position here. I'll make sure there's still strings on it so that I can demonstrate what happens when you try to get sound out of a pickup that has no magnet. All right, so I'm going to have my tone and volume knobs all the way up. I've got it in the bridge position, and we'll just strum some chords. All right, that should do. All right, so we're going to start by taking the strings off. I'm going to leave those strings on. I didn't clip them because I want to leave the same strings on between pickups, so we don't have a fresh set on when we hear the new pickup in there. There we go, a gentle persuasion. And then we're going to flip this over. And I'll try and do this without dinging the wood with my fingernail. And she's revealed. Oh, look at that. There's some shielding on the back. Who would have guessed? Although I'm not sure how much help that is when none of the rest is shielded inside. So this gray wire's got both the ground wire and the hot wire in it, leading to the jack right there. I'm going to take a photograph of the inside of this before we start removing anything. All right, so this middle potentiometer is the volume knob for the bridge pickup. In this guitar, this wire here is a 2-conductor wire. There's a ground wire, and then there's a little red wire that comes off of that, which is the hot. And that's for the neck pickup. And then this black wire here, there's a lot of black wires, a lot of them functioning as ground wires. But this black wire, which is a bit thicker, has, again, it's a 2-conductor. We've got a ground wire touching the top of the pot. And inside we've got a white wire. I don't know if you can see that, but that little tiny white wire is the hot coming from the pickup. So all I have to do to replace the pickup is to remove this wire from the ground position and from the first lug of this potentiometer, and then feed the wires of the new pickup back through and attach them right there. So let's get to it. All right. Okay, that one came out easy. We've now got both the ground wire and the hot wire for the pickup removed. So we've got Phillips head screws in this pickup surround. Just need to release the 4 screws. Okay, we've loosened the pickup. It's not attached to the body, but we still need to move the pick guard off so we can see and grab the wires. And last but not least, and the big reveal. Let's do this carefully because I don't know what they've done underneath here. All right, so we've got our 3-way pickup selector here with this laughable amount of shielding. I'm not sure why they bothered. Sorry, this red wire is from the bridge pickup. Oh, that's some dust. I better wipe that out while I have access to it. I think it's just Carina wood that's been you know, routed out. It's just the dust left over, but they didn't bother to clean it. Good enough for government work, as they say. Okay, so this black wire here is the pickup wire for this pickup. And should come out without much fuss. There it is. And what do we have? Okay. HOTCHG LP bridge BHC. Don't know what any of that means, but we do know it's an Epiphone pickup. I'm going to keep the surround, so I think we'll take out the two height screws. You can see we're almost all the way out. There's a spring here. It's going to want to fly. So we'll just keep our hand back there. Okay, that's one. That's two. Okay. Keep the springs on there. That's the pickup. All right, and before we put the pickup in here, I'm going to do one final thing to it, and that is I'm going to give it, that's just the paper tape, the black paper tape. I'm going to give it a surround of the cloth tape. It'll just give it a little extra protection when it's in there. So I'm using 3M brand cloth, acetate tape. It's a 1/4 inch height, which is the height of space between the bottom and top of the bobbin. Take a good length of it to get this started. That's just a bit of extra protection for the coil. That's a bit prettier. All right, and we're going to add the screw side goes toward the bridge. You'll notice that the screw side goes toward the neck when it's this. This is just tradition. It would work both ways, but we're going to stick with tradition. We've got a suspended pickup. So, well, it's not a pickup yet. It's got no magnet in it, but you know what I'm saying. Let's put it back in the guitar. Okay, so we'll move our pick guard out of the way. Take our pickup. Remembering that the screw side goes traditionally to the bridge. And then through into the control cavity. And then we'll bring the pickup through. Oh, that's looking pretty sweet. And we'll put our 4 mounting screws back on. And now we'll feed this wire through the rest of the way. All right, so we've got the pickup installed. We've got the pickup wire coming through here. We're going to be attaching it to the pot in the middle here. This is the volume pot. So we'll put the ground wire on here. We'll put the hot on there. And I'm only going to attach one of the 2 coils of the humbucker for the moment. We're going to be playing around by experimenting on this end, okay? By changing the way these wires are connected, we're going to be able to change what's happening with the pickup. whether we're connecting just one coil, whether we're connecting both coils by perhaps tying two of these wires together. And then there's the question of whether they're wired in a way that bucks hum or that doesn't buck hum. And then finally, we'll put the magnet in and show that in terms of humbucking, nothing changes, but in terms of sound, being able to hear the guitar when you strum it, that does change from no sound to sound by putting the magnet in. All right, let's get to it. Incidentally, I thought we'd just have a look at this Epiphone pickup. Yeah, 14.18. Just in case you were wondering, that's what it is. Of course, that would suggest that perhaps they didn't skimp on wire, because if it's got a high DC resistance, that's suggestive that there's a lot of copper on that bobbin. Now, we've got a lot of wire, of course. I'm not going to leave all of this in, but for now, I'm just going to use, I want to have as much flexibility as possible. So I'm going to let the wire dangle for now, and later on we'll chop it off when I close this up. But for now, let's just use the end of the full length. And what we're going to do is put the ground wire, obviously is going to go to ground, so it's going to be soldered to the cap. And then our black and green are from the same coil. So the start wire is attached to the black, and the finish of the wire is attached to the green. The start gets attached to ground, the green gets attached to lug 1, which is our hot. And we're going to take the other coil's leads, and we're just going to wrap them together. They're not going to be connected to the guitar at all. So we're just going to connect one of the two bobbins, one of the two coils, and there's no magnet in the pickup. So we're just creating an antenna basically to pick up electromagnetic radiation. So I'll wind some black electrical tape around those two, just to sort of insulate them from everything else inside the cavity. Pulled some wires that are inside the cavity away. I can just pull the whole pot out of there and give myself some more room. But to do that, I'm going to have to flip the guitar over and pull the knob off. There we go. I've purchased these rocket socket. Basically, they're like a socket set, but they're made out of plastic. There we go. Number 11 is going to do it. That's a short shaft pot, 500K, which is pretty typical for a guitar with humbuckers in it. Now that it's out of the pocket there, I can see what I'm doing a little better and get this wire attached a little better and make use of the helping hands a little better. We've got the wire where we want it. It's touching the contact on the first lug. We'll heat up the wire and the lug. I think we've got contact there. And then we'll take our ground wire and our start wire. There we go. So what we've got now is just the screw side coil connected to the volume knob. And we've got right here the slug side coil wires not attached to anything, so they're not, it's as if the coil's not there at all. We're just going to push this back through, reconnect it to the guitar. So given that I'm going to have this potentiometer in and out of this guitar a number of times during this experiment, I'm not going to bother putting the knob back on just yet. At this point, if we have the guitar set in the neck position, we'll have a pickup. It'll make sound. It'll pick up the sound of a string. But if we have it in the bridge position, there's no magnet in here. There is a magnet in this one, but there's no magnet in here. So all we should be able to pick up is the electromagnetic noise from around the room. And we'll be able to demonstrate that, you know, if we don't leave the strings on just yet, we'll be able to pick up noise, but with both pickups, and obviously not pick up any guitar sound. So let's try that. All right, so what I've set up here, I've put my laptop in front of the guitar. It's giving off electromagnetic radiation. I know this because if I record right now, which we'll do, and I unplug the power supply, the hum will disappear. So let's watch this. All right, so the guitar is in the selector is in the bridge position. We're going to turn on the recording. We can see hum. Now, all of this noise is the kind of stuff that humbucking pickups, are designed to cancel out or to get rid of. This is the noise that a humbucker is designed to reduce. I won't say completely eliminate, but largely reduce, so that all that is left is the sound of your guitar. If I turn the selector to the neck position where there's a humbucker in, we see a difference. There's not as much hum. Most of the hum has been canceled, or at least a considerable percentage of it has been canceled by the humbucking effect of this pickup. Whereas this pickup, this being the only coil that's active, this is not connected to anything. What we're hearing is the 60 cycle hum. And if I unplug the computer, the electromagnetic radiation is reduced or eliminated because I'm running on battery power. Plug it back in. There it is. So we know that that electromagnetic radiation is coming from the computer because I can change it by simply unplugging the power supply. And that is what humbuckers are doing. They're canceling the electromagnetic radiation from the plugged-in computer.